Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to a few Snarled videos. So during the June double donation reward special we were holding, Venom0027 donated for a bunch of videos from this YouTube channel called Snarled. I have never heard of this channel. I know nothing about their content. The name of the channel, Snarled, like, it makes me think of gnarled, like with a G. Which really leads to uncomfortable thoughts, which could be the point. I don't know. But snarled also makes me think of like snarl, like someone is snarling. And it's like, I don't know what the intent here is with it. But it all kind of leads into like a more uncomfortable, like not quite scary feeling, but in that kind of direction. So since there's a bunch of these and they seem to range pretty heavily in terms of length, we're gonna do these in parts. This is our first part of our Snarled reactions, and it's going to be 3 videos today. Don't open the door, the thing that will kill me, and do this in memory of me. Now, to my knowledge, these probably are their own separate things. At least I haven't found any connecting things between them. I don't know exactly what to expect, but we'll kind of just go from there and see what it's about. The titles don't tell me too much either. Don't open the door is very vague and could mean a lot of different things. The thing that will kill me is a lot more straightforward, at least in terms of how it sounds. But I don't know exactly what to expect from that. Because again, it could mean a lot of things still, and it could be taken a lot of ways. And do this in memory of me also sounds straightforward, but if you think about it, it could be taken a few different ways. It could be twisted in a way. It could be snarled, I guess. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what I'm getting into. I don't know even really what kind of videos these are. So we'll see how they go. It will be redirected because although these are YouTube videos and all, I want to remain as safe as possible with the channel. There's pretty much nothing that will ever be posted to the channel that won't be redirected, just to be safe. So yeah, just going from there, we're just going to get into this and hope for the best. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. Or episodes or parts or whatever you want to call them. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So yeah, like I said, these are kind of those like clickbaity stories that you see shared on like Facebook and stuff. A good way to put it is like a Reddit story. And they are from subreddits, apparently. But it's like, I see like all these things shared to my Facebook feed sometimes, like, there will be like a link to a article about a bunch of "Am I the asshole?" uh, Reddit posts and stuff, and then there will be some that like will show like scary stories or something, or even like ones like, oh, these are like terrible, like Reddit stories about terrible like step parents and all. Just things like that. I see that all the time. I click on them. They're interesting reads. Um, they're most likely false. Like, um, it's kind of that thing like you can't believe everything you read on the internet. Some of them are like, let's be honest, very exaggerated or even just straight up lying. Some of them might be real, but I bet you anything that a lot of them are probably not entirely real. And obviously, these are more short form horror stories. They're meant to be just something spooky. It kind of reminds me, there's this series, Two Sentence Horror Stories. You can find it on Netflix and all. It kind of reminds me of that. You know, like the entire idea with Two Sentence Horror Stories is it's a horror story in two sentences. The first sentence is usually something innocuous, sounds nice even, and the second sentence recontextualizes that into something scary. And the series on Netflix like makes entire episodes out of those kind of two sentence horror stories, and it's a really cool idea, and they're really good. Not every episode is like phenomenal, but like they're all pretty good, and even the ones that aren't the best still stand out. But that's kind of what this reminds me of. It's like I guess this channel just does these kind of things. This first one, Don't Open the Door, listed as a murder mystery thriller story time, which there's way too much description there. Um, but I guess it's kind of accurate because this first one, Don't Open the Door. We have this girl, this main character, who comes home and her father's not there, which is rare or even unheard of. She lives with her father, he's not there. So she does her homework, falls asleep, and has these dreams. In the first one, her mother, who I guess isn't around anymore, I don't remember if it specifically said what happened to her, but in the first dream, her mother is there, and our main character is younger, and the mother tells her, don't open the door. Goes into the second dream almost right away after that, and she's seen the father across from a train track while I guess a train is running, and he's calling out the same thing, don't open the door. So at this point in the story, you're thinking, okay, there's going to be either a knock or a ring at the door, and yeah, the idea is she shouldn't open it. Pretty straightforward. And the idea is there's probably going to be a monster, a serial killer, or something like that if she opens the door. And so when she wakes up, she hears the doorbell ring. She goes to it. She sees her father through the peephole, and she's about to open the door, but realizes she remembers her dream and remembers not, and she feels this weird feeling like it's like, okay, something's off here. So sorry, the dog's making really weird noises over here. And she looks like she's about to puke, but she's not. Piper, go get some water if you need to. Go get some waters. Sorry for that distraction. Yeah, she's like dry heaving or something. I don't know. You okay? She's not doing it anymore. Weird. Hopefully she's okay. She seems okay. Anyway, she remembers the dream, so she doesn't open the door. She starts asking him, like, did you forget your keys? Can you answer me? And there's no answer. The doorbell keeps ringing, so she's not going to open it. She's going to heed her dream, but also she feels something is wrong. So she falls asleep at the door while the doorbell keeps ringing. When she wakes up, the doorbell stopped. She looks out the peephole and she still sees her father's face just there. So she finally decides to open the door, at which point she realizes it's not her father's face. Well, it is, but it's his disembodied head hanging there. And there's a note that looked like it was written in blood that says, "Now I know you're alone." And so it's like, yeah, kind of my thoughts were realized. It was like a killer. But like all of these kinds of stories, it left it open at the end. It didn't give us closure per se, because we don't know what happens after that. We can only assume. And as I said with the third one, or was it the second one? No, it was the second one. But as I said with the second one, which I'll get to, the fear of the unknown is almost kind of scarier sometimes than if you actually have a closed ending. Because it's like you don't know, does she end up being killed? Is the serial killer still right there or something? And it's like, it gets your mind racing. It's a genuinely good tactic to sometimes leave things open-ended like that. And it genuinely makes you wonder as well. Did this killer, were they targeting her specifically and her father? Is there more to this? Why did she have this prophetic dream? There's a lot of questions. But again, the fear of the unknown is in full effect here. So, then we get into the second one here, the thing that will kill me. This one, like I said in the pre-thoughts, the title is a lot easier to work with. Because you kind of assume hearing the title, it's like, okay, this is going to be about someone finding out about what will kill them. Or at least describing the thing that will kill them. By the specific wording, the thing that will kill me, it implies that the person knows what will kill them. So that's what kind of clued me into the entire prophetic aspect of it. So when we see that this story is about these two preteen girls going to visit a psychic, a clairvoyant, it makes sense. It didn't surprise me at all. The title kind of leaned into that. Although the title could have still meant a lot of different specifics, it was a lot more straightforward in that regard. So yeah, two preteen girls, they hear about this local clairvoyant and go to visit her. She's this old woman, very sunken in skin, pretty standard old woman. They go in, hand her some money, and the friend, who I think was named Tina, asks about her love life, like, who am I going to marry? And the woman, instead of using any kind of typical psychic fare, such as tarot cards or crystal ball or tea leaves or even doing some kind of like palm reading, she just sits there for 2 minutes, eyes closed, doing nothing. Afterwards, she tells Tina, this is the name of the guy you're going to marry. Gives her the full name. And it's like, okay. It's a pretty standard thing, I feel like, with a lot of psychics, to try to be as vague, both as vague and as specific as possible, to just hit that sweet spot. Here, obviously, she's being really specific, like with a full name, but still. But then she turns to our main character and she tells her, it's like the thing that will kill you. And then she starts describing in different ways, like, will be shedding its skin, will be collecting skin, will be rinsing the blood off of its claws, sharpening its teeth. And so it's like, of course, the description is making you think monster. So throughout her life, the girl is like thinking about all this and like wondering like, oh, when's this gonna come? Where's this gonna come? The old lady said you'll never see it coming. And so things progress as normal. She moves away to California, and eventually ends up getting an invitation to her old friend Tina's wedding. And wouldn't you know it, Tina is marrying a guy by the same name that the clairvoyant told her all those years ago. So the wedding goes well. Everything seems to be going fine, but then sometime later, our main character goes to visit again and finds out that Tina has apparently left Michael. And then he is in the process of like coming inside from the cold and everything. It's wintertime. He puts his coat away and all, goes into the restroom. And she calls out to him. They talk very briefly, closes the bathroom door. And then she drops her phone. And when she reaches it from under the couch where it fell, she pulls out this big old like clump of hair attached to the remains of a human scalp. And it's like it's right at that point that I would have flipped my shit and screamed and probably ran and possibly gotten killed. She freaks out and everything, obviously, and she starts thinking about the prophetic reading she got. And she realizes that the prophecy, the clairvoyant reading, wasn't literal, but more of a figurative thing. The thing that will kill you will be shedding its skin, taking off the heavy winter clothing, will be washing its claws, washing its hands in the bathroom, as we see that Michael was doing. And so on and so forth. And it's like collecting skin, and there's like hair that looks like Tina's hair with a bit of scalp attached to it under the couch. Some Buffalo Bill shit going on here. But it's like it's all coming true, and it's all connecting and fitting. So she bolts, she leaves, she gets in her car. Apparently, as she's getting in her car, the front door opens and everything, but she just leaves. She drives off. And once again, it's left open-ended. We don't actually know what happens. She drives and drives and drives, reaches back to California, apparently. But we don't know if she actually dies. We don't know if she dies. We don't know if Michael was chasing her. We don't know. We do know that she apparently called the police, but nothing ever came of that. But we actually have no real conclusive end to that. So it's pretty interesting that it leaves that open-ended when the title would very much make you think it's going to have a pretty closed ending. But again, it kind of makes it scarier in a way. Again, not that any of these are really that scary. It's Reddit levels, basically. None of these ever really get that bad. It's like a mid-grade horror film. None of it's actually that scary. But it's more like the ideas that are left in your head afterwards are what kind of linger there, you know? Then we have the third one, and this was the only one that actually had a closed ending. Though there were some questions left unanswered and some ideas that were still floating around there. So do this in memory of me. So the beginning kind of, I wasn't clear on something. At the very beginning, it's like, okay, this girl is talking to her grandmother, and the grandmother's like, I will never eat this soup again. I can't remember what it's called at the moment. So I'm just going to refer to it throughout this as the soup. Because it's basically what it was. It was like a soup or a stew or whatnot. Um, Probably a very real uh, dish and all. Um, but yeah, the grandmother's like, I'll never eat this soup again. And then all of a sudden it goes into a different story almost. It just kind of like starts again. And I'm thinking, like, okay, is the grandmother telling her this? Is that what's supposed to be going on here? I wasn't clear on that. I felt like it could have been expressed a little better. Um, so I'm just gonna refer to it with the rest of the story, and I'm just gonna kind of ignore the opening part that I just wasn't sure what it was trying to go with there. So our main character is a Catholic, seemingly devout Catholic, goes to church and everything, and yeah. Um, I grew up Catholic before I started going to Protestant church, but we were never like super well practicing. We were one of those families that only went to church on holidays and stuff, like Easter and Christmas. We never like actively went until we started going to Protestant church. And I still don't know why my parents just randomly decided to do that at one point. It's like we just moved and all of a sudden, oh, we're going to church now. Okay, sure. And a Protestant church from that, considering again we were Catholic before, and our entire family was Catholic, and it's like I don't know, I don't know the reasoning, but either way, I was young when that happened, and I hadn't been to Catholic church as much, so there's a lot about how they practice that I don't know. Um, but either way, in this we cover this girl is talking about or I think it's a girl. I think it's supposed to be a girl. I might be wrong. Our main character is talking about this couple that goes to the church with her that are also very devout Catholics and everything. Um, and the couple are very intense with the way they speak and everything and look at you while they speak. Um, but that's kind of all that's gone into with it. Like, they're just very intense. The wife is apparently this good cook, and they make this stew for everyone. It's a very common thing, and apparently especially the wife, knows everyone's names, memorizes them down pat, and greets everyone personally when they meet. And so far, it just seems like, okay, this is fine. I don't see the problem here. I mean, maybe being a little intense can turn some people off, especially if you're staring at them so heavily, but I don't even see how this is going to go bad. But then we find out that the wife died during a home building situation that the church was doing. A stray beam fell on her and killed her. So that week's service was a memorial to her. And during the memorial, the husband served the stew that she was famous for. And it was not necessarily as good, not bad, but not necessarily as good as hers. So no one really thought much of it. And the main character was eating it and everything until there was like one chunk of meat left. I had trouble piercing through it, but then found out that that chunk of meat was a thumb. And this is where the actual horror aspect finally comes in. Uh, it was a piece of thumb, and it was kind of put together like right away after that. It's like, oh, okay, so this stew is made from her. He took her body after her death and is serving it up like a communion, which was mentioned in the story. Communion was mentioned. Apparently, in Catholicism, they view it as there is an actual transformation happening when the priest blesses the bread and wine, and that it actually becomes the flesh and blood of Jesus, which is what it's a symbolic thing. Like I said, most of us in more Protestant sects of the Christian faith, it's symbolic. To think it's like a literal, like, real transformation happening is a little much, honestly. But either way, so yeah, he doesn't deny it. He reveals it right when she does. She tells everyone, she shows the thumb, and it's revealed, and he's like, "Oh yeah." Just and he's just like, kind of talks about, the way he talks about it is like very much in line with the entire communion speech and all. It's like, do this in memory of me. Hence the title. And male person. But so they hold him there. The cops come, take him away. He claims he did nothing wrong and that all of them are closer to God, and it ends. It's a lot more closed-ended. The reveal is made. The killer is caught. He's arrested and everything. The only thing that's kind of left open is, like, there's hints throughout the story that the wife was something supernatural. The way, like, especially with the way it emphasizes how the husband kind of, like, worships the ground she walks on and shit. It's kind of hinting at that. My thought was that she was going to be some kind of divine being, like an angel or something. And that she was going to be the one who was, you know, the monster, villain, or whatever of this story. But instead, it kind of like drops that entirely. And the reveal is more like, oh no, the husband is just crazy. And it was all just the way he was treating her, and when he killed her, he felt like by consuming her body and everything within the stew, it would like bring them all closer to God. And it's like, okay, but it's like so it was kind of more of a misdirect than anything. It was trying to lead you into thinking one thing and then ended up being something completely different. And I feel like a lot of these have almost made me think that they were going to be supernatural. In fact, all three of these kind of did. This one kind of, again, made me think the wife was going to be like some kind of angelic divine being or something. The second one, The Thing That Will Kill Me, made me think it was like, oh, it's going to be a monster or something. And Don't Open the Door also made me think, oh, it's going to be some kind of supernatural monster-like being behind the door. But in all of them, it like the first one, Don't Open the Door, it's a killer. Some kind of killer. The second one, also a killer, but the description that was given to him was, again, more monster-like, but it's more of symbolic. And now in this one, it's just a crazy asshole. Just a crazy, fucking weird asshole. And it's like, wow. I mean, okay. Also, forced cannibalism. So that's fun. But yeah, it was a really interesting set here. If I had to say a favorite, it would probably be, I would say the last one, actually. Do This in Memory of Me. I feel like the fact that it did switch, like make a really hard turn in the end and went in a completely different direction, and the fact that the first, like, three-fourths of it was very innocuous and just not really that scary, I think it worked better. Um, it made the twist a lot more shocking, and like, because pretty much up until it was revealed that that piece of meat was a thumb, it did not even cross my mind that that was going to be the reveal. I had no idea where it was going. When she started like stabbing the meat and it was tough, it started like kind of like moving in my brain, like, okay, something's up here. But it's like it really took until the last second for my brain to have it click. And I kind of like that. That's kind of what I really enjoyed about it, that it kept me thinking, kept me wondering. The other two weren't bad by any means, but they were, I guess, maybe a little bit too open-ended at times. Um, if I had to say which one would be my least favorite, probably Don't Open the Door. I feel that there just wasn't enough to it. Probably because it was short. It was the shortest of these three. Um, but it just felt like they could have added a little more into it, and the reveal was a little weak, in my opinion, of it just being the father's head being hung there outside the door and with the notes. It's like it's very generic. Like, oh, what you thought was your father standing there was just his head hanging down, and there's a note saying, "Now I know you're alone." It's like, ooh, scary. It's like, yeah, of course, in real life that would be fucking horrifying. That would be one of the scariest possible things that could ever happen to you. Of course. But like when you're watching it from a fictional point of view, when you're watching it from like a story like this, it's like you kind of expect maybe a little more. Maybe like they could have added on to it, maybe like maybe made the story a little longer by having a little more tension build, a little more mystery. Like maybe she looks out the people at one point and her father's gone, but then looks out again in confusion and he's back again. Something like that would have added maybe something to it. Or maybe like she heard breathing on the other side of the door, but her father's like mouth wasn't moving or something. Something like that would work. It just maybe a little more detail, a little more to the story would have helped it. It wasn't bad necessarily, but it was the weakest of these three, I would say. And the thing that will kill me was pretty good, and I really like how it did end up just being like these uh, metaphorical descriptions of a murderer. And I also love the fact that both clairvoyant prophecies were towards the same person. And if you think about it, it actually makes sense because there was actually something I noticed right away when the clairvoyant, when she's doing the reading, she only does it once. She only goes into her trance-like state once. And yet she gives two prophecies from that. And I noticed that right away. I didn't know what it meant, but the fact is she took both of those prophecies from the same reading. Both the prophecy that of the name of the man that Tina was going to marry and the description of the thing that will kill our main character. And so it's like the prophecy was both in regards to Michael, and I think that's actually pretty brilliant. I think that was actually really well done. So yeah, I really like that one too, but I would definitely say my favorite was Do This in Memory of Me out of these three. So All of that being said, there will be more snarled reactions coming in the future. I have an entire list of them. Yeah, it seems like they're all separate, but I guess they were like organized into, I guess, quote unquote, seasons on the channel. It's like, oh, like in the same way that Death Battle is sorted into seasons. You can watch them in any fucking order you want. It does not matter. But that's just how they were released. It was a release schedule. That's what the seasons were. It doesn't matter what order you actually watch them in. So, yeah. We'll get to more. Next time we'll probably have like maybe two more parts of this, maybe three. Depends on how the length of all of these are going to be. I know there was one I was looking at that was actually before another one on my list that I have, and that one was like 30 minutes long or something. So I chose to like let's wait on that for now. But I'll still be getting to all the rest of them. And it's like, yeah, this is pretty interesting. Definitely a different kind of video than I usually react to. And I'm sorry if I was maybe a little quieter in the reaction. I was paying attention. I was trying to, watch and listen to the videos. So I wasn't saying as much. Because it wasn't as visual. Like there were like these animatic style images, but they weren't really super necessary. Like you could easily just listen to these with your eyes closed, laying back in bed, and it's like, yeah, it would be the same experience. The visuals didn't do much, so it's definitely a different kind of video, and one that I definitely have to auditorily pay more attention to. So if these continue to be a little quieter than other reactions, I do apologize. But yeah, we'll get to more of these in the future. But in the meantime, thank you all so much for tuning in. Tell me in the comments below, what did you think of these three quote unquote episodes of Snarled's stories? And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.